Some coffees don't look like anything special, but the moment you try them, they surprise you. And the first one is a perfect example. 8 o'clock coffee. You've probably seen it before and didn't think twice. Simple bag. Nothing flashy. No big promises. It's the kind of coffee most people walk past without even noticing. But when someone actually gives it a real chance, something changes. The first thing they notice is how smooth it is. Not weak. Not flat. Just smooth in a way that feels easy from the very first sip. There's no harsh bitterness hitting you right away. No strong aftertaste that stays too long. Instead, it feels balanced, and that's usually what catches people off guard. Because visually, it doesn't suggest anything special. It looks like something basic. Something you'd buy just to get through the week. But when you drink it, it feels better than that. And that contrast is what makes it stick. Because it doesn't try to impress you. It just ends up being better than expected. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what turns it into an everyday coffee. Not because it's perfect, but because it works. And once you notice that, it's hard to ignore it the next time you're in the store. Now the second one surprises people in a different way. Folgers Black Silk. Most people already have an opinion about Folgers before they even try it. Either they grew up with it, or they've already decided it's nothing special. And when they see something like Black Silk, they assume it's just going to be stronger, maybe even harsher. But that's not really what happens, because Black Silk does something people don't expect. It's dark, but not aggressive. It has a deeper flavor, but without that burnt taste that many dark coffees have. And that's where the surprise comes in, because people go in expecting something heavy, something sharp. But instead, it feels smoother than expected. Still bold, yes, but controlled. And that makes a big difference, especially for people who like stronger coffee, but don't want something overwhelming. It's one of those coffees that looks like it's going to hit hard, but ends up being easier to drink than you imagined. And again, that contrast is what creates that moment, that small pause after the first sip, where you think, this is actually better than I thought. And those are usually the coffees people remember. Not the ones that try too hard, but the ones that quietly change your expectations. Now, here's something worth noticing. A lot of the coffees that surprise people the most are the ones they almost didn't buy. They were picked last minute, or out of curiosity, or simply because nothing else felt right. And somehow, those end up being the ones that stay. They become part of your routine without you even planning it, because they don't demand attention. They just deliver a good experience. And that's enough. So I'm curious about you. Have you ever tried a coffee that didn't look like anything special, but ended up surprising you? The kind you almost didn't buy, but then you kept going back to it. Let me know in the comments. Because the next one on this list fits that exact situation even more, and chances are you've seen it many times without really considering it. Maxwell House Original Roast. This is one of those coffees people stop seeing. Not because it's not there, but because it's always there. It blends into the shelf. It feels too familiar. And because of that, most people assume they already know what it is. Just another basic coffee. Nothing special. But something interesting happens when someone actually tries it. Without expectations, they notice how consistent it is. Every cup tastes the same, and that might not sound impressive at first, but for a lot of people, that's exactly what matters. You wake up, you make your coffee, and you already know what you're going to get. No surprises, no strange flavors, no cup that feels different from the last one. Just something steady. And that kind of reliability is more valuable than people think, especially when coffee is part of your daily routine. Maxwell House isn't trying to stand out. It's not bold. It's not complex. It's just easy to drink. And that's what ends up surprising people, because when something looks that simple, you expect it to be average. But instead, it delivers exactly what most people actually need. A coffee that just works. And once you realize that, you start seeing it differently. That boring option suddenly makes a lot more sense. Now, the next one goes in the opposite direction. Café Bustelo. This one doesn't blend in at all. You notice it right away. Bright yellow packaging, strong presence on the shelf, and because of that, a lot of people assume it's going to be too much, too strong, too intense, maybe even harsh. And yes, it is strong, but that's not the full picture, because what surprises people is not the strength, it's the richness. It feels full. It has body. It doesn't taste thin like many cheaper coffees. Instead, it feels closer to something you'd expect from an espresso, but without needing any special machine, and that's where it changes things. Because instead of feeling aggressive, it feels intentional, strong, but controlled. And that balance is what people don't expect. Especially if they're used to lighter coffees, that first cup can feel very different. Not necessarily something they drink every day, but something they remember, because it delivers more than expected. And again, that's the pattern. It's not about being perfect. It's about breaking expectations. Now, the next one is different again, because it doesn't stand out visually, and it doesn't try to be bold. Lavazza Qualità, Rossa. Probably seen this red bag before. In Europe, it's very common. In the US, it usually sits in a separate section. And because of that, many people don't even consider it. It feels unfamiliar, and when something feels unfamiliar, most people just skip it. But when they don't, they notice something almost immediately. Balance. Nothing about it feels extreme. Not too bitter. Not too acidic. Not too strong. It just sits right in the middle. And that's harder to find than people think, because many coffees lean too far in one direction. Too sharp, too weak, too heavy. But this one stays controlled, and that makes it very easy to drink. Especially over time. It's not the kind of coffee that shocks you on the first sip. It's the kind that grows on you, cup after cup, until one day you realize you keep choosing it without thinking. And that's a different kind of surprise. Not immediate, but consistent. And that's usually what turns something into a habit. Not intensity, but reliability over time. Dunkin Original Blend. This one surprises people for a different reason, because most people don't think of Dunkin as something they buy in a bag. They think of the store, the cup in their hand, the routine. So when they see it on a shelf, it doesn't feel the same. It feels separate, almost like it won't match what they're used to. And because of that, a lot of people don't even give it a chance. But when they do, they notice something right away. It's easy, not weak, not watered down, just easy to drink. There's no harsh bitterness, no heavy aftertaste, nothing that makes you stop after a few sips. It just goes down smoothly. And that's exactly what surprises people, because they expect something different. But what they get feels familiar, comfortable. And that matters more than most people think, because coffee is not something you experience once. It's something you repeat every day. And when something feels easy to come back to, it becomes part of your routine, without effort. And that's where this kind of coffee wins. It doesn't try to impress you. It just fits. Now, when you look at all these coffees together, something becomes very clear. The ones that surprise people the most are not the ones trying the hardest. They're not the most expensive. They're not the ones with the most information on the label. And they're definitely not the ones that look the most impressive on the shelf. They're the ones that quietly do their job. They give you a good cup of coffee without making a big promise. And that's something a lot of people overlook, because when we walk into a store, we naturally look for signals, better packaging, stronger claims, more detail. We assume those things mean better quality. But with coffee, that's not always true. Sometimes the best option is the one that looks the simplest, the one that doesn't try to convince you, the one that just ends up being better than expected. And once you start noticing that, it changes how you choose. You stop chasing what looks impressive, and you start paying attention to what actually works. And that shift makes a big difference. Because at the end of the day, most people are not looking for the perfect coffee. They're looking for something they enjoy every single day. Something they don't get tired of. Something they can rely on. And most of the time, that's not the one everyone is talking about. It's the one sitting quietly on the shelf, waiting for someone to give it a chance. So, next time you're in the store, take a second look at the coffees you usually ignore, because one of them might end up surprising you. And if you enjoy simple recommendations like this, subscribe to the channel, because here, we focus on what actually works. No hype, no complicated explanations, just real choices. And before you go, which one of these would you try first? Or maybe you already tried one and didn't expect much, but ended up liking it. Let me know in the comments.